In 2019, CCD was at the top of its game. It was the largest coffee chain in India and was operationally profitable. But it was the same year when its founder VG Siddhartha committed suicide, and India lost a visionary entrepreneur.
Yesterday was an extremely unfortunate day as India's coffee baron's missing body was finally discovered.
Cafe Coffee Day founder VG Siddhartha was found dead this morning.
The man behind Cafe Coffee Day was dead, and the whole country is left in shock.
So why did this happen? Well, it turns out everything was not well with CCD's business. The company did grow to become India's biggest chain, but this growth came at a cost. CCD was under a big debt, and by 2019, this number had grown to 7,214 crore rupees. And Siddharth could not cope up with all the pressure from his lenders and decided to end his life. This was when Siddharth's wife Malavika took over, and in the last 4 years, she has tried everything to save the company. The total debt on company has now reduced from 7,214 crore rupees to 1,363 crore rupees. On a unit level, its stores have gotten more efficient, and the company is now trying to script a comeback. But this plan would not be easy. CCD now faces tough competition from new players, both local and international. So in this video, let's first understand how CCD went through its lowest moment and how Malavika is now trying to revive it. Siddharth came from a wealthy family in Chikmagaluru, an area that is known for coffee plantation. In his young days, Siddharth wanted to make a career in finance, and so he moved to Mumbai after his graduation. There he worked for 2 years in a stock broking firm JM Financials. And after gaining enough insights about the stock market, he returned to Bengaluru to start his own trading business. For this, he borrowed 7.5 lakh rupees from his father and started Way to Wealth investment consultancy. Now, this was in early 1980s, and India's stock trading scene at the time was much less competitive. So much so that Siddharth at the time made 1 lakh rupees per day.
I came back to Bangalore. I made a lot of money, 85 to 92 in equity markets. Those days, India was so inefficient. There are not so many smart guys like you there. Every day gave me opportunity to make 1 or 2 lakh rupees every day.
And all this money that Siddharth made from trading, he used that to buy coffee plantations. By 1992, he owned around 5,000 acres of coffee plantations. And even though these coffee plantations were a huge reason behind starting CCD, the way he bought these lands were his first mistake. All of this land was bought mostly on credit.
Whenever I made money in the equity market, I bought little bit money outside I put it in the coffee plantations. Remaining nationalized banks were giving money for the agriculture. I got 75% of line of credit. So by 92, 93, I ended up having almost 5,000 or 6,000 acres.
So Siddharth had a lot of land at this time, and he was using it to grow coffee. And this was also the time when India had opened up its markets to the world. And like other sectors, the coffee market also saw massive changes. Up until then, the government decided the prices of coffee. And according to Siddharth, coffee growers in India were getting less than 1/3 of the price compared to growers from other countries. And so as the markets opened up, the prices for Indian coffee shot up. Siddharth seized this opportunity and he started exporting Indian coffee. And since he had thousands of acres of land and a family background of coffee plantation, he became India's largest coffee exporter in just 3 years. By now, Siddharth's ambitions had grown and he wanted to be much more than just a coffee producer. And so, with the vision of connecting people over a cup of coffee, Siddharth started the first Cafe Coffee Day outlet on Brigade Road in Bengaluru. The year was 1996, and they sold one coffee for 25 rupees, which was 5 times the cup of a regular filter coffee at the time. This, however, did not impact CCD's business. Their target market was young, affluent people who did not mind spending 25 rupees for a cup of coffee, but wanted good vibes and facilities. CCD at the time offered internet at their cafe, and things like these set it apart from other traditional chains. This was the beginning of CCD's journey, and by 2019, the year Siddharth committed suicide, they were the biggest coffee chain in India. They had 1,752 cafes across the country with an annual revenue of 3,569 crore rupees. But this was not the only business that Siddharth was doing. See, CCD's parent company is Coffee Day Enterprise Limited, and in 2019, only 50% of its revenue came from its coffee business. The rest came from a bunch of totally unrelated businesses. Firstly, there was this trading firm Way to Wealth, which I mentioned earlier in the video. Then there was a logistics company Sickle Logistics. After that, there was the construction company Tangling Developments, which developed technology parks and SEZs in cities like Bangalore. He also had a luxury hotel and resort chain under the Serai brand. And finally, the company also had a venture capital firm called Coffee Day Trading, where they invested in technology startups. Siddhartha was juggling multiple businesses under the same company, and this over diversification was his next big mistake. Now, I don't want to go into detail of each of these businesses, but one thing you should know is that most of this was built on debt. In 2019, Siddhartha had a total debt of around 10,000 crore rupees from all his businesses. And because of this distraction, Siddharth's focus on CCD's business was lacking, and it was evident. See, CCD started in the 1990s, and for a long time, it did not have any meaningful competition. But in the last decade or so, this market has changed. New players like Starbucks, Blue Tokai, and Third Wave Coffee were now catering to the aspirations of the young and affluent population, a segment that CCD too was going after. But in this race to be more appealing and premium, CCD was lagging behind these new players. And the only solution the company thought of was expansion. Take a look at this graph. The number of CCD stores grew consistently during this period. But this growth happened on the back of heavy loans. And this is reflected in the company's balance sheet too. In FY 2018, the company borrowed 3,354 crore rupees to repay debt of 2,844 crore rupees. Next year, the borrowing amount increased to 7,831 crore rupees, which was then used to repay a loan of 5,733 crore rupees. Basically, company was taking new loans to pay its old dues back, and this was turned into such a spiral that Siddhartha saw no way out and ultimately took his own life. So now that we have understood the situation of CCD at the time of Siddharth's demise, let's see how Malavika is now trying to revive the company. See, things for Malavika were not easy. She was now a single mother of 2 sons, and her company Coffee Day Enterprise Limited had around 10,000 crore rupees in debt. Her first order of business was to cut down on non-core businesses and focus only on their coffee business. But the biggest challenge for her was to repay the debt. For this, she first sold 90 acres of their global village tech park to Blackstone for 2,700 crore rupees. Then she sold their wealth management business Way to Wealth to Shriram Credit Company for 65 crore rupees. And finally, she also put their logistics business up for sale. This was focused on cutting down their non-core business and finding a way to service their debt without borrowing more money. The next challenge was to make CCD's business sustainable. She then took the toughest decision of all, to shut down their unprofitable cafes one by one. Take a look at this graph. In 2019, CCD had a presence in 243 cities with 1,752 cafes. And this number was cut down to 469 cafes in just 154 cities in 2023. And even though these moves hurt the company in the short term, things are improving now. Its revenue, which dropped from 3,569 crore rupees to just 582 crore rupees in FY22, is now growing back. In FY23, it grew to 924 crore rupees. Next, their operations have become more efficient too. Back in 2019, they made an average of around 1 crore rupees from one single cafe in a year. But this number has now grown to 1.8 crore rupees from one cafe. That's an 80% increase in efficiency. So now, what does the future look like for CCD? See, even with a decline in the number of cafes, CCD is still the largest coffee chain in terms of number of cafes in India. And in terms of revenue, it is the second largest, only behind Starbucks. But the question is, can CCD maintain this lead with new companies quickly closing the gap? That will be a challenge for the company, but it looks like it's in a great shape to take on that challenge. See, the world is going through a fourth wave of coffee right now. The first wave was marked by instant mass-produced coffee, followed by a second wave which involved sipping coffee sitting in a cafe. This was led by the likes of Starbucks. The third wave of coffee was represented by independent curated coffee bars, which elevated the art of brewing coffee. And now we are seeing the fourth wave of coffee, where customers care about the sustainability, the ethical sourcing, and the origin of coffee. And in my opinion, CCD can certainly ride this new wave. The company still has thousands of acres of coffee plantations, and it can ensure a farm to cup model of coffee, ensuring ethical sourcing and sustainability. CCD right now now is ready for a fresh start. For the last 4 years, it has just been putting out fires. Its debt has fallen from 10,000 crore rupees at one time to 1,000 crore rupees now. And as I mentioned, CCD is already the largest player in terms of number of stores. So with a new brand positioning and focus, the company can make a successful comeback. And while this is an untapped opportunity, there's another market where CCD is already dominating. It's the coffee vending machine market. With close to 50,000 coffee vending machines installed across coffee locations, it is estimated that CCD controls 70% of the office coffee vending machine market in India. This market was worth $165 million in 2022 and is expected to almost double to $315 million by 2030. So that's another big opportunity for CCD. In the end, I want to ask you, do you think CCD can make a successful comeback? And what are some key challenges and opportunities you think CCD would face? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you in the next one.